and I went to go see a pageant, and I fell in love. I just fell in love with the glamour of it, the glitz of it. And then I learned it's work. Do you know 26 people? Well, 1 out of every 26 people have epilepsy. 1 out of every 10 persons will have a seizure in their lifetime.
Sex is not a tool. It's not a commodity. It's not something that you use to control other people.
And part of my biggest fear was tearing my family apart, because family was everything to us.
Talk about full range interview. Here we go, like never before. I want to welcome Angelique Marie. She is amazing. She is Miss Elite US right now. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff that hopefully will resonate with you. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, everybody. Hi. I am so excited that you are here. I am Maria. This is the Strong Body, Strong Soul show right here. It's about energy. It's about self-esteem. It's about getting in touch with who we really are, connecting with that positive, good vibration of energy that we want to share with the world and create more of it. Today, I am so excited because I have Angelique Marie with me right here. She is amazing. Angelique, tell us about your crown, first of all. What is going on? You look gorgeous. I love it.
Thank you so much. You look gorgeous. You're just glowing. But yes, I won Miss US Elite Woman of Achievement last November. So I'm the 2020 title holder.
Wow.
I don't like to call them beauty pageants. I call them achievement or talent pageants.
Excellent.
And that's what I focus on. A large majority of the pageant is based on your interview with the judges and the talent that you give. But I sang.
Okay.
I sang Defying Gravity from Wicked. And
I
it's kind of
love
the story of my life. You know, I defy gravity despite all the obstacles that have come into my life. There have unfortunately been several, but I've overcome them, and that's why I'm a woman of achievement.
Perfect. Before we get into all the nuts and bolts about how it all works, tell me a little bit, how did you get into this kind of award competition?
I was a late bloomer, okay? I didn't start till I was about 17 years old. And it's because my a friend of the family's daughter, she competed in pageants, and I went to go see a pageant, and I fell in love. I just fell in love with the glamour of it, the glitz of it. And then I learned it's work. And you have to know yourself and be confident, and have high self-esteem, and research your topics. And it's a lot of work, but I just love it. So I started as a late bloomer in the Miss America system. Now it's a job. It's a title that you spread awareness on, and create opportunities for. But in pageants, like across the board, you can start as a newborn.
Wow. Yeah.
The parent holds the child, and if they have personality, if they smile from some gas, then they win the crown. And sometimes the crown is bigger than they are. It's really funny. But there were a lot of girls, you know, who competed starting that way, as young as that. But I didn't start till later. So it was a whole different experience for me.
I just think it's so fascinating because my daughter was in Girl Scouts, and this is just—
I was in Girl Scouts.
Were you really? So did you do that before you were? Then you did that for younger years, because I can imagine you have to pick one or the other. I would imagine
you'd be surprised. A lot of these girls that I coach now, or that I know in the pageant industry, they're like super girls. They do everything. They do dance, singing, voice, Girl Scouts. You know, they do it all. That's what makes them such remarkable little girls.
Wow. So their achievement list grows. Wow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You notice that first and foremost.
Yeah. I can imagine, like, as a woman now, as an adult, looking back and seeing, like you say, it's the achievements. And I think
Yes,
that there's such a pressure in our society about what looks are. And I just
very true.
think you are so fascinating. And I can't wait for our next conversation where we're going to get into the meat of, how to balance that with the troubling side of beauty and perception. But for right now, I'd love to hear, what was your project? What was your project that you work on that you're passionate in the Miss Elite um, pageant?
Well, for this pageant, it was Project CARE, cultivating advocacy through resiliency and empowerment
Uh-huh.
through seizure first aid and awareness,
Okay.
epilepsy awareness. So it
Oh,
was epilepsy
epilepsy.
awareness through Project CARE, basically.
Okay, okay. Because let the viewers know, yeah, sometimes when you say some of those terms, people who aren't familiar with it might not realize epilepsy is a big thing. It needs a lot
It
of
really
support.
is. I mean, I always start off by saying, do you know 26 people?
Uh-huh.
Well, 1 out of every 26 people have epilepsy, some form of it, and people
Wow.
don't realize it.
Yeah.
1 out of every 10 persons will have a seizure in their lifetime, yet we don't talk about it.
Uh-huh.
It's not really known. Seizure first aid is not what we talk about, and it needs to be addressed
Wow. Well, what drew you to that particular
because
um
I myself have epilepsy.
oh,
So
really?
I am one of those 26 people.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
But
Wow.
so was Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, Vincent van Gogh, Prince. So it was later coined the disease of the greats. So I
Oh,
don't mind
hence
that.
the crown, hence the crown.
I don't really mind that title. It really is something that you have to overcome and grow from in order to continue on with your life. Like you might notice that I may twitch or jerk a little bit when I speak. That's me actually having a tiny bit of seizure activity.
Oh,
But
wow.
that's just something I have to overcome. Some people don't notice it, and
Uh-huh.
you're getting to notice it now that I brought it to your attention.
I
But
do.
the fact that I got it right on the onset of puberty at 11 years old, and I started having seizures, and they were uncontrollable, and surviving that makes
Wow.
you truly a woman of achievement. You know,
Wow. Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Now, how do you control the seizures
definitely.
now?
Medication
Okay.
first and foremost regulates it. There's no cure for epilepsy,
Uh-huh.
but there's a regulation for it. And obviously, they say get a lot of sleep. um, no, limit your use of alcohol, and just try to live as stress free as you can. Right? You can't.
That's a challenge, right?
Everyone is supposed to live stress free. So
Right.
they say try to limit your stress, and or the
Uh-huh.
way that you handle stress like through meditation,
Uh-huh.
breathing exercises. I do a lot of breathing and
Yes.
that helps me. It helps me a lot.
Wow. Has it ever
Yes.
interfered in
Yes.
a business kind of situation or
Yes, I have not been able to work full time because like in an office building, a job, because the fluorescent lights can have electrical impulses in it, and they can
uh-huh.
cause seizures.
Oh, wow.
So almost all buildings are have that type of lighting, if you notice. So I
Yes.
became an entrepreneur that I am. And I began teaching voice because that's what I do and that's what I'm good at. And I started teaching it in park districts and churches across Chicagoland because I was born and raised in Chicago.
Okay.
And then I started doing musical theater shows, and I'm basically a self-taught director. And I learned what to do, how to put a whole production together, like the Disney's Aladdin and Wicked Journey to Oz and Phantom of the Opera and Les Mis and Rent. I've done all those in Chicago.
That's
And I'm so proud
fantastic.
of my accomplishments. I'm so proud of what I've done because that musical theater changes lives. and it
Uh-huh.
changed my life for the better, obviously. So
Yeah.
that's how I give back. That's how I create social change and make a difference.
That's amazing. Now let me talk to you a little bit about your voice teaching. And like you
Yes,
said, you sang a song from Wicked
yes,
in the competition, right? That's
yes.
amazing. Do you find when you're releasing energy in a creative way like that, does it flow more smoothly when you're creating like that?
It absolutely does. It's
Yeah.
so funny because I don't have the little jerks and the little twitching that I sometimes have when I'm speaking. When
Yes.
I'm singing, I don't have that. It doesn't
Uh-huh.
exist. It's just like someone with Tourette's or someone with some sort of disorder. When they sing or they act, it doesn't come out. It's truly amazing. It really is.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, sometimes your seizures, are they considered a stutter or that's a separate thing, right? Because sometimes probably people interpret it a little bit,
They probably just think I
right?
have like a stutter, but it's actual seizure activity.
Yeah, interesting because I know I have a friend who stutters and he has a podcast and he is just so brilliant and he's so funny and he just plows through and gives
That's
so
awesome.
much energy, and his whole podcast it's called My Stuttering Life. Yes, that's Pedro Pena, and he's amazing because he interviews people around the world that do have stutters that are
Oh,
successful. That's what he and having a podcast has helped him with his
oh, I'm
stutter
sure
too.
anything creative like that is
Yes.
unbelievable. It's like its own mini cure, you know?
Yes, yes, that's fantastic, and helping people in general too for anybody, anytime you're trying to help people, like you were saying at the beginning here, mentoring girls that are going into the pageantry world, that can be so rewarding, and
It really is. It's so rewarding. No
that's
matter what
amazing.
title they earn or they don't earn, it's how they grow. It's
Yeah,
how they gain this self-confidence that
uh-huh,
nothing else is comparable to,
that's
you know?
amazing. Yes.
Really, it's really fantastic.
Yes, yes, I love it. I love it. So, Angelique, what I would love to do is have another conversation with you about some of your work in the darker side, actually, a little bit about your history. Like you started to allude to it right there in this conversation. But the pageantry, I just want to leave it on a final note that during the pandemic, last time we talked, you were saying how pageants are still going forward during the
Yes.
pandemic, and then we're going to say goodbye to the listeners, and we're going to talk another time. But let people know what's going on with pageantry right now.
Well, they're either going virtual and you can do it virtually in your living room,
Uh-huh.
and the judges judge you from your living room and how you do your talents and how you interview and how you walk in your evening gown. But uh, most of them are continuing having the live events. They're just having the COVID pandemic. What's the word I'm looking for?
The
They're
safety
having
precautions, the
the safety
masks, and
precautions. Thank you very much. I have so
taking
much going on in my mind right now,
yes, yes.
and that's part of the epilepsy as well. When I have
Uh-huh.
too much going on in my mind,
Uh-huh.
it causes short-term memory loss.
Wow.
So about 4.5 years ago, I almost died. I was from a seizure. I had flatlined and I was blue for 9 seconds, and it caused a TBI, or a traumatic brain injury. And
Wow.
so sometimes I just lose my memory. I mean, a lot of people lose their train of thought sometimes, but for me, that's the reason that I do it.
Wow.
But that's
Wow.
why it's so important to just get over it and thrive and survive.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And everybody out there, if you're interested in pageantry information or you want any insights, feel free to get in touch with Angelique.
So, pageants gave me a voice that I didn't know I had. I started later on in life at 17, which is not really that much later, but for some girls, it really is late. And in the Miss America system, especially achievement and talent pageants, you have a platform, you have a community project that you research, that you talk and speak about. And that is so important. I realized I didn't have to just live with, I didn't just have to live with the pain that I had gone through. I could actually speak about it and make a lasting social change.
That's great.
With it.
That's great. There are so many.
That's what pageants taught me the most. So if anything, if you're thinking of getting your girls or boys, because there are many boys pageants as well.
Oh,
yes, absolutely. It's not just about girls.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yes, there's a lot. And they're so adorable in their tuxedos. My son did a couple pageants in their tuxedos and like modeling around, and it's so cute. It's so adorable. It just gains their self-confidence. They gain their self-confidence on these stages. And the more they do it, the more it grows. It's really amazing.
Wow.
But for anyone interested in doing pageants, obviously there are some pageants that are more, a little bit more dramatic, where you see the toddlers and tiaras type of pageants. But I'm speaking more of the scholarship, more of the achievement type pageants, where these girls learn to interview. I was able to get any job I wanted because my interview skills were just off the hook.
That's great.
I could get anything that I wanted. So it helps you succeed in so many other areas of your life.
That's beautiful. I hope you guys are having fun listening to this interview. We are going to turn to more serious subject matter, hoping that it will help you in some way. Here we go. This is the Strong Body, Strong Soul show. It is a show that I developed to help remind people about how powerful they are, how much more they are than just their physical bodies. We all are so much more, and we're all connected in unimaginable ways. And having conversations, even tough ones like the ones we're about to have, are so important to remind us who we are, where we came from, who are the people around us, and how they can influence our lives and bring positivity and hope to the world by shedding light on dark topics. So we're sharing so much positive energy, but I think it's so vital that we talk about Angelique's history and her experience in life with sexual violence. So this is going to be a tough conversation. It's going to be a great conversation because we're going to be talking about things that might help you in your everyday life and will help Angelique get her story out there because it is so important. It's so important. Angelique, your story began at what age, this experience that you had?
Well, through art therapy, we're not completely sure because I was so young to remember, but through art therapy, they say that it's been through the ages of 5 till about 10 years old. So for a period of about 5 years, I was sexually abused by 5 different members of my family.
Wow.
What a lot of people don't realize is that, you know, we teach our children so much about stranger danger and staying away from people that don't look right or make you feel uncomfortable. But the majority, 95% of the time, when you are sexually abused, it's by someone that you know and that you trust. Because they're able to take advantage of that situation. It's about power and control that they lost and want to exercise over someone else that's younger and more impressionable.
Now, where were you living at the time? Were your parents married, or was it a
Yes, I was not from a broken home. My parents were married. We had big family fiestas. Even every Sunday we had a big family Sunday dinner. But that's the thing. My parents felt comfortable letting me go and play with my other cousins. And it was also my father's son from another marriage. So they trusted them.
Uh-huh.
So it was just as much of an assault on them as it was on me, because they were older than I, about 6 to 10 years older than me, and they felt they could trust me playing with my cousins, hanging out with my cousins, going down the street with my cousins, going to, and in one part I had a cousin that lived 2 doors down from another cousin, so we'd have the attic of the other place while everybody was at the other cousin's house. You know what I mean? They found the places, you know, where they could do this.
Were you the only girl and there were a bunch of cousins? Is that what was happening?
No, it happened one at a time. They never did it together. They never did it together, but it happened one at a time. One would take me to the bathroom, or one would take me up to the attic, and then, you know, honestly, I didn't know it was wrong. It started happening to me at such a young age that I just thought, I guess this is what families do. I really thought that for a long time, which is why I didn't say anything. Now, as I started getting older and started noticing changes about my body and how I was feeling, I started feeling very uncomfortable, and I didn't want to go to my family events. And I would have tantrums about not going, but everything, especially in a Latino family, is about family. Okay. So they made me go. But I didn't feel comfortable enough to tell them. They had no idea. And it wasn't until then that I was like, no, I don't want to go with you, or no, so I started stopping around 10, maybe just before 11 years old. Because what happened was, my grandmother, she saw me and my father's son coming out of the bathroom together. And all of a sudden she starts screaming at him in Spanish. Now, I didn't learn Spanish when I was younger. I learned it when I was older. And I just felt so guilty and ashamed, even though she wasn't yelling at me. She knew that I was the victim in the situation. But it was at that time that I was like, oh my gosh, what we're doing is wrong. This is, it's not supposed to be like this. And she showed me. And he hung his head down, but it didn't stop him. I mean, he continued. And I learned later that my father's son came from a broken home, obviously, and his mom was kind of nutso. And also one of my other cousins was being sexually abused by his coach at the same time he was abusing me. So all of them, it's not that they wanted to hurt me. It's that they lost a form of control that they had and needed to take it from somebody else. And I was the easiest target at that time. And now I understand that. So it's not about self-esteem, because I was a very confident kid. Yes, it's about learning to set boundaries, but you have to learn that as a child. If you don't learn that, it's never going to happen. Awareness is key. Awareness is absolutely key. And if I had known that sexual abuse or sexual violence or assault even existed, then I wouldn't have let it go on for so long. And it wasn't my fault. I shouldn't say I let it go on, but I didn't know it was wrong. I just didn't know.
That is just so gross. That's so gross, because you're even pre-puberty. It's like you're not even these teen. How old were these guys? Like 15, like between 15 and 20?
Yes, 6 to 10 years older than me.
Which is so fascinating. It's so great that we're having this conversation, because I think when you think of family members and sexual abuse, you're thinking of the dirty old man. You're thinking of the old grandpa, stranger, the uncle,
or the uncle.
Or I mean, even within families, you're thinking older uncle, icky older guy. And here you are with these kids victimizing you. And as you say, it probably wasn't even sexual in nature. It was more of the control thing. And you were
It's
what was
all about
available.
control.
If you would
Yes.
have been 15 years old, they probably would not have gone for you
No,
because you would have
no.
said something at that time. That is so
I
gross.
was the youngest cousin. I had a twin brother, or I
Uh,
have a twin brother, but I was the girl that they could,
yeah.
take
Did
control of.
did your brother have any inkling that this was happening?
He didn't, but afterwards he did say, now in hindsight, he remembers the
Yeah.
way maybe my father's son would touch my leg, or that we would be gone for a little bit of a while,
Yeah.
So he remembered things like that, but he didn't know anything was going on, and they
Right.
didn't touch him. And part of my biggest fear was
Wow.
letting the family know and tearing my family apart, because family was everything to us.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. As soon as I came out with the truth, there were no longer those big family celebrations, and it was virtually my fault. That
They
at
blamed
least that's
you?
the way they kind of blame me, because they knew about the old term "boys will be boys"
Yeah.
was actually said to me when I
Oh,
told my aunt and uncle. And I wasn't yet old enough or strong enough yet to say that's ridiculous.
yeah.
You don't say boys are not
That's not okay.
victimizers. No, it's not okay.
Yeah.
No, but they all made excuses for them, and then we slowly started separating, and it was sad for my family. It was really hard, and I still to this day feel like I broke up my family,
Oh,
even though it was done to me.
right.
But they just can't handle the situation. It's just too difficult for them, because there's 5 of them. So brothers, sisters, I'm sorry, not brothers, sisters, like nephews, brothers, sons.
Right. Even
How
those
how do they choose between the niece that they love
right.
so much,
Right.
the niece that's their goddaughter or
Right.
whatever?
Did they try to deny it?
Yes, a couple of them did, and a couple of them said, "I'm sorry. If it happened, I don't remember, but I'm sorry." Right?
Boys will be
Ridiculous.
boys. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Oh my God.
But it happened, unfortunately. And in my case, it happened for a very long time. And it
Wow.
happened, I didn't tell the family till years later, years of suffering, of not wanting to hurt my family.
Yeah.
And then when I realized, you know what, this is a cycle. The cycle will continue.
Yes.
My cousins are now having their own children. And not that they want to hurt them, but again, it's that impulse of control. And they obviously couldn't control that impulse. So I was like, I can't let this go on in my family, because then I am to blame. So what I did was I confronted each of my abusers with their wives. So their wives would know in the back of their heads, he's an abuser.
Yeah.
And that's when I found out stuff like one of them was being abused while he was abusing me by his coach. I learned certain things after the truth came out. I didn't know it at the time. But I had to stop the cycle. That's what we all have to do. Awareness is key. We got to talk to our kids about being sexually comfortable. Why sex is such a bad thing to talk about? I don't get. Especially now with how prevalent, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 14 boys will be sexually assaulted before the age of 14.
Wow.
And people are afraid to talk about it. I mean, no, it's not pleasant, but we have to inform these kids and arm them with the information that if anyone, and it doesn't matter who, comes to you and you feel uncomfortable, you talk to somebody, you tell somebody. or you
Right.
just run and say no, the same way we do with stranger danger. You know, it would change drastically if we just did that.
Right. Well, I think it goes a lot to just the whole idea of our bodies being a temple. Our bodies are our own. Sex is not a tool to use.
Right.
Whether it's in business or politics, whether you're going to criticize a female politician and say she slept her way to the top, like sex is not a tool. It's not a commodity. It's not something that you use to control other people, to victimize little kids.
But that's
And
what
that,
they're doing. That
yes,
is what they're doing.
yes, yes.
And it's being permitted because our kids don't know what it is.
Right,
And
right,
then
right.
after I stopped the abuse,
Uh-huh.
I still didn't know the idea of my body being a temple, that it was sacred, that
Mm-hmm.
it was not to be touched.
Mm-hmm.
So I started dating, getting older, and not understanding the signs of like a date rapist. So I was date raped in college.
You were just used to it.
I
Ugh.
didn't know any different. I did not know
Yeah.
any different. Nobody talked to me after that. I didn't have therapists. I should have had
Mm-hmm.
therapy, but I didn't. Everyone was still just so afraid to talk about it, and we
Yeah.
can't be. It has to be. It has to be talked about it.
It absolutely does. And I think even for the children of your
Yes.
abusers, even
Yes.
for them to not have a conversation and let their daughters think that it's okay to be treated like that. Even from a father, those jerks are becoming fathers.
Yeah.
And for them to look at their own daughters and think in their head, boys will be boys,
Yeah.
and allow their own daughters to be victimized too.
Which is why I said
Wow.
it's not going to happen anymore. I'm watching you.
Yeah.
You can't get away with this anymore, and you know I'll say the truth now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not afraid anymore.
Right, right, right.
But it is what tore our family apart.
Wow.
You know, cousins still, the sisters of the boys feel weird talking to me because they feel loyalty to their brother, and it's just so hard. It's so hard, and that part I hate because I was so close with my family.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it's what had to be done. I had to stop the cycle
Right.
because it just continues.
Right. Right.
You get abused as a child. 85% of convicted rapists in jail have been sexually abused as a child. So it's a social issue. It's a social problem.
Yes.
Once we bring those numbers down, we bring everything else down as well.
Right, right, right. And I think the lack of information, and I think the generalizations are dangerous too, because like you said, one of the guys that was abusing you was being abused by a coach, which was a male or a female?
Male.
So I think there's distinctions on gender too, because like you said, boys are they're being victimized as well.
Oh yes.
And
it's
then
so sad.
It's so sad. And every boy obviously doesn't think like those jerks that were abusing you.
No.
Don't victimize people. There are way more good guys out there in the world. We know that.
We know that.
But we also need to talk about things like this so that they realize that they can lend their voice to ours as well when they speak up. You know,
exactly. If we all speak up together and tell our children how special their bodies are, and that these parts are not to be touched by anyone.
Yes.
You know, that's all they got to know. That's all they don't have to go into a deep conversation about sexual abuse with their 5-year-old, but their 5-year-old has to be aware that, okay, this is something to know about.
Yes, absolutely. So how are you sharing your story and your voice to help other people? Tell us what kind of tools, besides interviews like this. I love it. Thank you so very much, Angelique.
You're welcome.
For being on here. And
I'm glad to do it.
Really, I mean, your vulnerability and your strength are so powerful. And that's what we need.
Thank you so much.
It really is.
If it can help just one child, seriously,
Yeah.
One child, one teenager, one anybody, you know, it
Yes.
can happen at any age.
Yes.
But basically what I have decided to do is write a screenplay about the story of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote it with this very talented writer, Samuel Morris, and we're going to, within the next 6 months, bring the screenplay to life and shoot it, and it will be a movie.
Wow.
It'll probably be like a Lifetime or Netflix original or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But I'm really excited about it because it doesn't, we're not sugarcoating it. It's going
Yeah.
to be difficult to watch.
Uh-huh.
But people need to know. People need to know this is what's happening behind closed doors. It hasn't stopped. They
Yes.
have to know. And it's
Yeah.
going to be really hard for me and for my family to see all this. But
Yeah.
it's something that needs to be done. And I believe I was put on this earth to do that for survivors of sexual assault.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So great what we were talking about in terms of finding your voice through
Yes.
after the fact is, you know, using your platform. I was actually, when we were talking about the Miss Elite title that you have,
Yes.
and you chose your platform that you're supporting there is about your epilepsy
Yes.
experience and your situation and your diagnosis with that. And I just think I think there's plenty of room for both things for
Well,
sure.
let me let me tell you. Before, when I was first competing in the Miss America system,
Mm-hmm.
my platform was stopping the cycle of sexual violence in America. But
Uh-huh.
honestly, it was too deep for people.
That's what, yes,
It was
I was
too
going to ask.
hard for people to talk about, especially this was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's too
So you
serious.
just don't talk about stuff like that, you know? So
Yeah.
now what
Yeah.
I do is I talk about another obstacle, obviously, with something I want to champion, which is my epilepsy. And epilepsy awareness
Yes.
is very, very important. But then I obtain the title, excuse me, I obtain the title, and then I can talk about whatever I want to talk about.
Right. 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 Right.
I can utilize the power of the crown to
Absolutely.
make a difference
Absolutely.
in any way. So
Absolutely.
people are more apt to talk about the epilepsy awareness, and
Right,
then
right.
later on, then I can share my story.
Absolutely. I think that's what a lot of people who are trying to make a difference in the world and shine their light as bright as possible. Like I
Yes,
said a moment ago, when we're talking about sexual abuse and we're talking about your body as a temple, you know, I slip that in there because
I love that.
spirituality and energy is important to me. But if I start off
Absolutely.
right off the bat, it's considered too woo-woo to talk like that. But that is truth. That is
It
truth.
is the
And it
truth.
comes
I'm
through
going to use that
every
if you don't mind.
conversation. Yeah.
If you don't
Yeah,
mind, I'm going to use our bodies are our temples.
absolutely.
I've heard the term before, but to use it in this to talk about sex is different. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes, yes.
We should worship and praise our bodies,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
kids are not taught to do that,
No, no,
but
no, no.
they need to.
In fact, they're taught the opposite. They're taught to take selfies naked and post them places to
Right,
get
right.
attention. And so kids are often taught exactly the opposite, which actually, here's a question for you.
Yes.
How do you find the balance between being on a stage in a pageant that is achievement based, of course, like we were talking about in our prior conversation, but with your looks, how do you balance embracing your physical beauty as well with the dangers actually of being up there too much, of, you know,
Well, I don't
because
do pageants that have swimsuit competitions or anything like that.
uh-huh,
I did in Miss America though. They did have physical fitness in a swimsuit, but I was still learning, putting everything together and learning about who I was. So
uh-huh,
now I don't do that. What we do is we have for Woman of Achievement, you do a sport. And I did boxing.
Oh.
Yeah, I did boxing, and I beat epilepsy, basically. You know what I mean? I beat sexual assault.
Very cool. Yeah.
So I got up there and I was like Rocky and punching and kicking. And that's how you show your physical fitness, that you're healthy.
Yes.
No matter what. Now,
strong is definitely the new sexy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, that's an important question. The duality of it all is very significant, but I choose not to do pageants that have swimsuit competitions. I'm not going to be going out in my bikini and, but fitness fashion is cool. And that's what's in right now.
Yes.
They're starting, more and more pageants are starting to do that, do a sport or do yoga or do gymnastics or anything like that, which is really cool to see. It's really great to see that shift.
Fantastic.
In the eyes of pageantry as well.
Absolutely. And women's empowerment, strong women, women. Especially through the situation that you went through your own personal experience, coming out of that. And I think you sharing your story is so important. And I think also really kudos to the pageant industry for making this shift.
Exactly.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I think more people need to know about it. Part of my mission is absolutely to raise awareness at these pockets in society that we don't think about, or we have preconceived ideas. We see, jerk, judges grabbing women at the pageants in the locker room or whatever the case may be. That's not okay. You don't grab anybody's whatever. It's not okay.
Exactly.
And wow.
But it is okay to be proud of your body.
Absolutely. Yes.
And hey, if you want to go on and flaunt your body in a swimsuit to show physical fitness in a pageant, I'm not against that either. I just don't personally do it. But it's about having that strength and empowerment that you feel within your body,
Right.
People are more aware now, but it is shifting, and yes, definitely kudos to the pageant industry for seeing that and for noticing that.
Yes. That's beautiful.
But I don't condemn anyone who does choose to do that. Is what I'm saying.
Right. Well, I had a friend of mine on here on the show before, Miyoko, talking about her adult toy business, and she is a pole dance instructor. And
good for her.
Totally, she's a mom. She's gorgeous. She was a Playboy radio talk show host. She's been in film. She's really amazing and gorgeous, but she is so powerful, and she's not ashamed of it. It's okay.
Absolutely. That's the thing. Sex and sexual assault are two very, very different things. And when you learn about healthy, empowering sex, and about your body being a temple, when you learn that, then you can graduate to this place where this woman is with her sexuality. Because sexuality should be a good thing, a healthy thing. When it's not is when it's bad.
Absolutely. Yes.
But I would love to graduate to even that level.
I'm
not quite there yet. I don't know about the pole dancing, but kudos to anybody who can do that.
I'll hook you up.
Okay. All right. That's awesome.
Anyway. All right. Well, thank you so much, Angelique, for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
The show notes here, we'll go ahead and put information on how people can find you.
Please. I welcome any questions, anybody who wants to share their story, anybody who's in a predicament. I'm here for you. I really am.
I want to thank you so very much for spending some of your time here on the show with us. Thank you, Angelique. She is such a beautiful powerhouse of energy, making the world a better place in her own unique way. I'm so thrilled that I could help get her voice out here for you guys. Check the show notes if you want to get in touch with her. Also, of course, feel free to comment or ask questions. Please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on future conversations. Share with a friend and tell someone that you love them today. I am Maria. Thank you so very much for stopping by. I love you.